Welcome to the Stoicism Wisdom Life channel. We hope you will have fun with us. Enjoy watching. The last few years of my life had been very quiet, but that day at my friend Anton's house, everything changed. Her son, Douglas, was the leader of a young rock band known for his charisma and confidence, traits that made him irresistible to others. I found myself alone with him that day, and what happened next led to something I could never have imagined. The afternoon began as usual. Jun had gone out on an errand, leaving me at her house. "I'll be back in an hour," she said as she closed the door. I settled down on the couch, about to enjoy a moment of peace when suddenly the door opened, and Douglas walked in with that rock star aura about him. "Hi," he greeted me with a dazzling smile. "Where's my mom?" he asked, leaving his leather jacket on the back of his chair. I explained that Jun would be back soon and wondered why my pulse was unusually rapid. Douglas exuded an attention-grabbing energy, the kind of confidence that only successful people possess. He sat down across from me, crossing one leg over the other, and looked directly into my eyes. "So, we're alone," he said with a mischievous smile. I tried to laugh as if it was a casual comment, but there was something in his tone that made me suddenly nervous. Douglas started talking about his band, the gigs, and the girls that followed him everywhere. There was a mischievousness in the way he spoke that left no doubt that he was used to getting what he wanted. Then he changed the subject abruptly. "You know, I always thought you were my mother's most attractive friend," he said with a directness that took me by surprise. I felt my face redden. Was he really flirting with me? No, it was impossible, absurd. But he was looking at me in a way that left no room for doubt. His confidence was disarming, his gaze intense and direct. Douglas rose from his seat with a confident and somewhat provocative smile. "I have something I want to show you," he said. "I just wrote a new song. It's in my room." His invitation was direct, almost a challenge, and for a moment, I was at a loss for words. I stared at him, trying to decipher his intentions. "Why do we have to go to your room?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. Some voice inside of me was warning me of exactly what lay in his suggestion, though a part of me was intrigued by the idea. Douglas laughed with a confidence unique to him. "I have my guitar and all my equipment there," he explained, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. "Plus, it's quieter to listen in there." I was about to reply, still contemplating what to do, when suddenly the door swung open. It was Jun returning. Douglas turned to his mother, somewhat surprised. Douglas said goodbye to me with a smile that hid more than it showed. "We'll meet again," he said in a determined tone. I nodded, feeling a kind of confused relief. In the days that followed, my thoughts returned to that moment several times. I remembered that difficult-to-forget situation, remembered how my body had reacted when he suggested we go up to his room. I kept asking myself questions. Should I have played along? Was I doing the right thing by not stopping the surge? I was confused. One afternoon, while my husband and I were watching a movie, the plot made me think. The story of a young man in his 20s who had an affair with a married woman. Some scenes seemed to mirror my own thoughts. I saw myself in the main character, a woman a little tired of her humdrum life and looking for something to make her feel alive again. That would be crazy, I thought. One morning, while eating breakfast, my phone vibrated. It was a text from Douglas. He said he was looking for an apartment to become independent and, knowing I was a real estate agent, thought I could help him. Was it a mere coincidence, or was there something more behind his request? Despite my initial doubts, I agreed to help him. "Sure, I can show you some options in the neighborhood," I replied, trying to sound as professional as possible. In the back of my mind, I couldn't deny the curiosity he had awakened in me. I made an appointment to show him some nearby apartments. As I got ready that morning, I caught myself paying close attention to my appearance, carefully choosing my clothes and makeup. "It's just a job," I kept telling myself, trying to convince myself that there was nothing else at stake. Despite my attempts to remain professional, I couldn't help but feel nervous about meeting Douglas to show him around the houses. His tattoos, his athletic body, that air of a cocky and seductive rocker. I no longer saw him as my friend's son but as a real man. At one house, when I was showing him the kitchen, Douglas stealthily approached while I was opening one of the drawers to show him the dishes. He had the nerve to whisper in my ear, "I'm going to eat you right here." I couldn't help but turn around and ask him, "What are you doing?" "This is out of line, Douglas." But before I could react, he moved even closer and pinned me against the refrigerator, brushing his lips against my neck. I was shocked, not knowing how to react. Then he started kissing me. I got carried away for a moment, but I quickly came to my senses. Making an effort, I gently pushed him away, and he pulled back. "Douglas, this isn't right," I said, trying to regain my breath and composure. "We can't do this. I'm your mother's friend, and I'm married." He looked at me with an expression of longing and confusion. "I'm sorry," he finally said, "but I can't help it. There's something between us that I'm very attracted to." I turned away from him, feeling overwhelmed by the situation. I knew he was right, that there was an attraction between us, but I also knew that he was my best friend's son and I was married. "We have to be professional," I insisted, though my voice shook slightly. "We can't let this go any farther." Douglas nodded, though I could see in his eyes that he wasn't completely convinced. We finished our tour of the house in awkward silence. After that day, I was even more confused. It was dangerous to continue down this path. I was torn between reason and desire, realizing that each choice would have its own consequences. I tried to focus on my daily life, my work, my family, but the image of Douglas and that tense moment in the kitchen kept haunting me. The thought of getting more intimate with him was tempting, even though I realized how risky it was. What was happening to me? He was just a young man with an arrogant temper, a lack of common sense, and a lack of respect. One day, I met up with John for coffee. I had always enjoyed our friendship, but this time, with everything that was going on, I felt a little awkward. We talked about everything for a bit until John, without wanting to, mentioned something about Douglas herself. "You know, Douglas started dating a girl who's a fan of his band," John said with a smile. They seemed pretty excited about it. Hearing those words made my stomach knot. I felt a twinge of jealousy that caught me off guard. "Oh yeah," I managed to say, trying to look nonchalant. "And what's she like?" John was enthusiastically describing the girl, but I could barely focus on her words. The thought that Douglas might be with someone else made me jealous without even wanting to be. "She's very pretty, and they seem to have a lot in common," John continued. "I'm happy for Douglas. I think it's good that he has someone." "Of course, it's important to have someone special," I said, forcing myself to smile. Why was I feeling this way? What right did I have to be jealous of Douglas? After our meeting, I went back home. What John had told me affected me more than I wanted to admit. The thought that I might lose Douglas, even though he had never really been mine, hurt me deeply. Acting completely impulsively, that night I picked up my phone and texted Douglas. "Hi Douglas, I have the perfect apartment for you. I'll see you tomorrow at 5 o'clock, and I'll show it to you. Don't be late because I'll have more clients." Immediately after sending the message, I felt regret. What had I been doing? But some part of me wanted to see him and be near him, and it drowned out all the warnings of my conscience. The next day, I prepared for the meeting with a great deal of excitement. I chose my clothes carefully, looking in the mirror and wondering if I was doing the right thing. But it was too late to doubt. I arrived at the apartment a little before 5 o'clock to make sure everything was in order. Douglas showed up on time with that smile that always turned me on. "This place looks promising," he commented as we walked in. I showed him each room, explaining the floor's features, but my thoughts were elsewhere. Finally, we reached the kitchen, the place that had been most tense last time. Douglas leaned on the counter, looking directly at me. "This place is great, but I think there's something else we both want to explore," he said in a quietly confident voice. In that moment, I couldn't control myself. I was the one who pinned Douglas against the refrigerator and started kissing him. He surprised me by responding with the same intensity. He picked me up and sat me down on the kitchen counter like a scene from a movie. What followed next was a chaotic afternoon that made me remember everything I thought I had forgotten. It was like a release from years of repression and hidden desire. I gave myself completely over to passion and adrenaline. Douglas and I completely surrendered to that moment, forgetting everything else. When it was over, I realized I had no regrets. On the contrary, I felt relieved, as if I had shed something that had been weighing on me for a long time. I felt alive, adrenaline running at 1,000 miles an hour. As I was about to leave, I looked at Douglas. He seemed different too. "Would this be the last time?" I asked. Douglas walked over, took my hand, and said, "I'm not sure about that, but I know I don't regret any of it." His words echoed in me. "I confirm that I prefer women your age," he finally said very boldly. I left that floor knowing that I had crossed the point of no return. What had happened between Douglas and me was intense and real, and even though I knew it was wrong, I couldn't deny my feelings. The idea that it would be the last time seemed unlikely, and so I cheated on my husband with my best friend's son for the first time in my life. But the most curious and strange part of it all was that I didn't care. I wanted more. Would I be a person with no regrets? I don't know, but the truth is it opened up a new world of emotions and pleasures for me, and I wanted to try more and more. Dear friends, if you liked this story, please share your thoughts in the comments and give a like or dislike, and maybe you will want to subscribe to our channel. Thank you all, and tell more.